Shares live. Okay. Interesting. How do I record it? Does it record automatically, huh? What? Okay. All right, bye. I guess. Yep. Yeah, share screen 3. Okay. Present to everyone. Okay. This is great. I'm live. I'm broadcasting. And I have no idea how to share this. YouTube. Let's go to my YouTube channel. Is it there? Videos? Oh, home? Oh, what's this? This is me live watching myself, huh? I scroll down. People don't see it. I wonder what the delay is. What's this? This is me live watching myself. Cool. Scroll down. See it. Awesome. Let's try this. Um, 47,865. Neat. All right, man. Let's do it. I'm gonna do this as a hangout. You could like watch me downstairs and let me know if anything breaks.
I will, because I like to look at you. Put you on the Chromecast.
Live, by the way. All right. How do I see who is? Oh yeah, everyone check out my email. That's a good thing to broadcast. Why not broadcast my email? That'd be awesome. Mute all sounds.
Giant fireball.
No one's watching it.
Oh, okay. You can have a giant fireball when you're done. Because you're such a good person. Just send your order. I'll bring it up. I'll be downstairs making paper snowmen.
How do I? It's so weird. All right, I'm live. Great. Like, no, I don't want to see it. Oh my god. Like, I'm here.
This for you.
I don't understand. I really don't understand Google. Yeah. Hang on. Oh, and now I'm here? Okay. Start a call. Yeah, I'd like to start a call in the middle of my other call. That'd be awesome. Can I do that? I'm in a video call. I know. Oh, maybe no one's here. Is this it? Hello. On this video call. So confused. Awesome.
Is that on the board to be erased or is that okay?
I don't know like how to like view the chat for it.
I don't think there's anything on that.
See me or the CC build page. On air, Hangouts on air. Yeah. That's cool. I have one going on right now. I'd like to just like kind of see what's happening in it. Live control room. Interesting. Okay. Info and settings. Advanced settings. Enable live chat. Well, I guess that doesn't matter. Live. Okay, stream is okay. Primary stream. Total view time. Peak concurrent 4. Broadcast. Alert. Create a highlight. Open live chat in a new window. Oops. Okay. View on the watch. Go live now. Aren't I live already? I don't understand. I don't understand. Oh, now I'm offline. But I'm pretty sure I'm not. Here's chat. Maybe I should do it this way. All right. It may seem a little complicated at first, but we'll help you through the key steps. Okay, set up encoding software for my live. Okay, that's okay. Add stream info. Optional features. Okay, streams offline. Beta. Oh, this is live streaming. This is not a Hangout on air. Oh, I paused things. Just in time. Chat. Enable chat. Category. Stream now. Go live. Start your encoder. Need to download encoding software and then set it up. Oh, so I think I'm not going to be able to do this. Encoding software and then set it up. Oh, so I think I'm not going to be able to do this. Got it. People can tweet to me, maybe. Okay. There's probably some people who don't work for me watching at this time. And if you're one of them, what's happening is that the Join Me software that we typically use was having audio issues. Our last webinar, it had poor sound quality, and I've been playing with that all morning, trying to work it out. And it seems like it sometimes fixes and sometimes just randomly in the middle stops recording well. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. I hear that Google Hangouts is a good way to do that. And the sound does seem pretty good when I look, but now I'm kind of struggling through Google Hangouts and getting the chat to work. I think where I'm at now is I have the streaming working without chat, and I might just keep it that way. If you got, maybe we can use like the general channel of the Slack channel at paymembershipspro.slack.com as a way for you to talk to me. I think that might be good. Cool, we're back. I'm going to use the general channel. So I'll tweet this. You can watch me tweet live. Doing it live. Ringing everything. All right. Let me replay this. Okay. We're using Google Hangouts today. That's working. So join us in general. Some people won't be able to get in there, but hopefully we'll kind of just deal. All right. So I'll kind of try to officially start the webinar at 1:01, and we'll have to kind of edit the video that comes out of this. But the idea for the webinar today is for me to go through at least the initial steps of adding a new payment gateway for Pay Memberships Pro. So this is something where we have some documentation on our site. I'm going to get there via our blog post here. So we have some rough documentation, an example gateway to use as a starting point, and the general steps, but each gateway is different. So we'll go through this really live. Like I'm going to do this as if I'm a brand new person who just looked at this for the first time, except the fact that I have some background knowledge. I'm kind of waiting for people to join into the general channel in the Paid Memberships Pro Slack. So if you're watching this, I see a couple of people watching on YouTube. I apologize about the technical troubles. This is the first time I'm doing a live hangout. But the chat's not working on YouTube. So if you feel like chatting, and I really want this to be interactive, you should join us in the general channel in the Paid Memberships Pro Slack. So I'm going to wait a little bit. I'd like this to be interactive. I mean, one of the first bits of interaction, and we have a couple people who work with me in there now, maybe it's just us talking to ourselves, is that I want to figure out which gateway to tackle, or at least talk through some. So there's two big ones that come to mind that are often requested in the comments on our blog, or just generally we see people asking us to support them. They also, a lot of people use our PMPro WooCommerce add-on to use WooCommerce and then use one of these gateways through WooCommerce as a workaround. So we see a lot of that activity around a couple of these gateways. And I was going to explore their web pages a little bit to learn about their documentation. So the two gateways I'm talking about, one is called CCBill, and I'm at the .com right here. Go down in resolution where glasses I'm supposed to. Oh, so if I change the resolution of my monitor. All right, we might have some more technical stuff to get through, and then stop. All right. Hopefully you can still hear me, but just can't see the screen. I'm changing my display settings to see if that helps. Wow, Windows 10 display settings. Super easy. Well, I can't change my display settings, so we're going to give up on that, and it's going to be blurry. We're back. Sorry about the blur. Hopefully the video recording will be in a higher quality. Okay, so let's look into CCBill a little bit. So actually, one of the reasons, as background flavor, why this gateway is popular is that it's what's called a high-risk gateway solution. So if your website is in the adult entertainment industry or gambling, or some things that are sold digitally that are not as kind of socially unacceptable, but are just high risk, this gateway is good for that. And what high risk really means technically is that there's lots of chargebacks. So there's lots of people who, might want to grab your content and then ask for a chargeback. When you do this, like, the credit card companies get really upset. The gateway companies get upset because they have to pay money to kind of to process the chargeback, and actually you get charged typically for when they happen. So these high risk gateways charge higher fees than usual. So with a PayPal or a Stripe, you're going to be paying something like 3 to 4% per transaction. With CCBill, I think the fees are a little bit higher. So that's what I've heard. So what I'm going to look for is their API documentation. I believe they have here we go, developers area, integration area, center, APIs, demos, fun. Let's look at some of this. So I'm trying to find like a good document or a place to start. I think CCBill is a little older, so maybe their documentation isn't as awesome as like the Stripe or Braintree documentation. But let's kind of take a look here quickly. Payment process. Subscriptions and memberships, so that'll be important. Another thing to keep in mind, I think, as a general background for building a gateway for Paid Memberships Pro, is that it's a lot harder to build full subscription integration than it is to build integration for one-time charges. A lot of times, I mean, all of these services, we should be able to quickly, poking around their website, get to like, here's a PHP example of how to make a charge in CCBill. And it'll be a few lines of code linking through their library, and it would be dead simple to do. And integrating that into Paid Memberships Pro will take some time. But a lot of the real effort around our plugin is that we want recurring subscriptions to be supported. And so we'll get into it hopefully as we actually start setting up an add-on. But what that means is that what Pay Memberships Pro does is it creates a subscription object at the gateway for most of the gateways we integrate with, and then it has to synchronize with the gateway. So when someone, when a monthly payment is made at the gateway, it's going to ping back to PMPro and say, hey, there's a new order. And then Pay Memberships Pro has to create a new order, figure out which user it's linked to, and send an email to them with the receipt of their order. It also has to synchronize cancellation. So when someone cancels, cancellations, when someone cancels on the Pay Memberships Pro side, we want to send a message to the gateway to tell them to cancel the subscription, and vice versa. If someone cancels at the gateway, we want to remove their membership in Paid Memberships Pro. So it's really that synchronization that like complicates things and makes it a whole lot harder than just kind of going through their demo and saying that we're done as soon as we're getting a payment. But actually what's good about why when we abstracted our payment gateway class is that if you're building a website where you want to use Pay Memberships Pro, but you don't need recurring payments, you can build your own gateway using that class that only does one-time charges and doesn't worry about synchronization. And it's a lot easier to do that. So if your requirements don't require recurring membership, which is definitely a subset of cases, most people coming to Pay Memberships Pro want that. That's part of the appeal. But if you do only need one-time payments, the process of building a gateway is a lot easier. And so for us as a company to build like an official integration, we have to make sure that it's supported completely. And I've been spending hours, working on our PayPal integration and our Stripe and our Authorize.net integration right now. I'm just chatting in the Slack here about getting people to join. Cool. So that's some background on just generally, integrating with any gateway, how to think about recurring memberships. So that all came up because we saw that CC Bill has a piece of their website here talking specifically about subscriptions and memberships. Processing integration. Let me see. How-to videos, technical documentation. That's an important one. So let's just see what they say about subscriptions. Another thing that we should be looking for now while we look at this is like a way to create a development account, because we'll definitely need that to start testing. CC Bill admin portal. So let's click on that and maybe there's a way to log in. Let's see if I can log in here. Oh, I'm a merchant. Log in, need help. No, let's sign. How do we sign up? Merchant chat. Let's try to sign up quick. Hey, maybe they'll let us. Oh, your account number. Nope, I don't have one. Let's go back to the homepage. I want to sign up. Developers. CC Bill for developers. Sign up. Pricing. All right, plans and pricing. So it seems like there's an application process. So, I mean, this totally makes sense. A lot of gateways have an application process. Some are faster than others. Let me see if I can Google CC Bill developer. If they don't have one, then we might not be able to really quickly do it here on the stream now. Learn more. Awesome. All right. So we'll table that. Let's look at what they're doing. We might be able to set something up and just not really be able to test it. Within an hour. I mean, the other part of this is that it typically takes us at least 20 hours to really get through a full recurring subscription gateway integration and test it. And then we spend lots and lots of time maintaining them ongoing. So we're definitely, I've set aside, a little over an hour for this webinar. I'm not going to be able to get through everything. We should be getting into some code later. But we definitely can kind of just take their word for how the gateway integrates and kind of set up the structure of the plugin, and then try to get an account and finish it up and test it outside of this webinar. Awesome. All right, so that's CC Bill. I'm gonna open up another window here, which is for the WePay SDK. So WePay is another one that is often requested. So we wanted to look at how their system works. They seem to have some pretty clean documentation, and I think their SDK is on GitHub, which is really nice. Makes it easy for us to use. This a PHP demo app. So this is really good. I'm sure if I look through the CC build documentation, I might find something like this, but this actually is really good for us because we can they have a sample application in PHP that does things that we can kind of look and say, oh, how did they do a charge in their sample app? And that's what we can copy. Making API calls. All right, let me try to set up a WePay account too. Login. Request consultation. It would have been really good to sign up, figure this out beforehand and sign up. But let's see how far we can go without an actual account. Sign up for WePay. All right, let's sign up. See what happens. Phone, guys. What best describes you? I'm a business. What type of business? Web development. This is a really good sign that their sign-up process is so easy that their integration might be a lot easier too. So WePay is taking me through something. So this might be a good. Let's call this dev. dev.pagemembers.com. All right. This is paid memberships pro. Cool. All right, it's got to give me some API keys. We'll be automatically on version. You might have integrated. Okay, interesting. Good to know. Client secret. Maybe I'll do that off screen. Cool. I think I'll probably just get these again. Configure. Awesome. Analytics. All right, these are my keys. So I'm liking WePay that we signed up and I have some kind of account that I can test against. So let's find their documentation. To figure out what we're going to do. Process payments. This looks pretty good. So I guess another thing to talk about, the way different payment gateways work, and it looks like WePay might have both of these, and some others do, like Stripe and Braintree have kind of like an offsite way of checking out, and have more of an API on-site way of checking out. PayPal Express is what we call an off-site checkout, where you go over to PayPal, make your payment, then come back to the site and finish the process. The way that we use Stripe and Authorize.net with PayMerchants Pro is an on-site checkout where people enter their credit card into your site. It gets translated through the API and confirmed, and then like everything takes place on your site. So that's like an important distinction to figure out like how the gateway works, or if both options are available, or what you're going to support. If Kim, do you want to come in? Never mind. Oh, okay. I muted the microphone and then failed to unmute it. I was talking about on-site and off-site checkout. So I'll try to repeat that. What I was saying was that this embedded checkout is embedded through an iframe. So this is kind of a middle ground where the processing is happening technically on the WePay servers, but visually it's going to look like it's on your website. Stripe does a similar trick where the processing of the credit card happens through JavaScript through their own servers. So because the credit card doesn't actually touch your server, your PCI compliance demands are less. PCI compliance is a set of rules that the credit card companies put together. That basically it's operating procedures and also bits of technology that you should be using to make sure your website is secure. And kind of the more touch you have with customer information and credit card information, the more demands there are on what you're doing. In general, you should Google this. We have some documents on our website talking about PCI compliance, but it's a really complicated issue and really kind of gray in a lot of areas. But I was going to say, in general, like the more that's happening offsite, like the better, because there's less PCI compliance risk. So it looks like this custom checkout might be more of going through the API. And they're using credit card tokenization is that trick that Stripe uses to keep the credit card from touching your server. So it seems like this is the most similar to how we integrate with Stripe. The embedded checkout seems kind of similar a little bit to how we do PayPal Express. Also, like Stripe and Braintree offer an option like this. So this might be something to look into later, but it'll probably be harder for us to do now. So I think if we use WePay, we'll do a custom checkout. Yeah. So before I get into WePay, I think I'm settling on WePay because I'm really liking their documentation. I did want to talk really quickly about Bitcoin gateways. So because I mentioned it in one of the blog posts. And a kind of another option, something that's been on our mind for a gateway to integrate with is Bitcoin. There actually is a Bitcoin integration through GoURL. Let's find that. Yeah, the GoURL Bitcoin payment press. Okay, so GoURL is a totally free GPL plugin that's in the WordPress repository. It integrates with GoURL, which acts as a gateway to accept Bitcoin. I think they have something like a 1.5% fee, on some transactions. So you'll want to look into that, but they have a paid memberships pro add-on. So this works. It has good ratings. We've gotten good feedback about it. So there definitely is a way to accept Bitcoin with Pay Memberships Pro already. There's some other methods that I wanted to look into. So there's, so someone is saying that Stripe has Bitcoin as a gateway and Braintree has Bitcoin as an option. So in theory, that'd be really great. You kind of go into your Stripe control panel and say, accept credit cards or Bitcoin. But that doesn't work with the current Paid Memberships Pro integration because our integration specifically is asking for a credit card and charging. So we'd have to upgrade our Stripe and Braintree code to allow for payment through Bitcoin and Stripe. Bitcoin as well as credit cards. That's something that we should probably look into doing as well. There's also other Bitcoin gateways like Coinbase and BitPay and BitInstant, I think is one. So these guys act kind of like a PayPal, and we integrate with them, and they do a lot of the Bitcoin transaction. And so some of them are pretty popular. One thing that I thought about doing was actually like a native Bitcoin integration. So technically, you could build a Bitcoin gateway without the help of one of these kind of intermediate gateways that just acted on your own server. So all you need is a wallet in Bitcoin, which would be an address to send up for people to send Bitcoins to. And then I'll talk through it. The way that it would work is you create a service that queries like exchange rates to make sure you charge the correct amount. Bitcoin's like a highly volatile You know, how many Bitcoins per US dollar changes day to day very quickly. So you want to say, I want to charge $100, and it figures out how many Bitcoin that is on the fly. So that's a service you would have to build, and there's APIs that you could tap into for that. That's one piece. The other piece then is when people check out, you kind of prompt them with a screen saying, hey, please send your Bitcoins to this address, which is my wallet. And as soon as I see the money in there, I'm going to give you access. So that would be like a listener that's constantly checking your wallet to see if money comes from the address that the person says they're sending from. Bitcoin's kind of slow. It takes about 15. Thanks, Cortana. Bitcoin is a little slow. It takes 5 to 15 minutes for like that whole transaction to go through. But as soon as your service detects that Bitcoin has been put into the address, it can kind of tell the user like, okay, now you have access. That'd be a really interesting thing to have, because I like the idea that like someone could set that up and all they need is a wallet address for their Bitcoin, and they don't have to integrate with a third party. Although it looks like the third parties add tons of features in terms of like allowing for subscriptions, handling chargebacks, or kind of imitating chargebacks, or insurance, and some other things. So if you want to use Bitcoin, check out the Go URL thing now. There's some other ways that we'll look into, but we're gonna stop talking about it from now on. So next, all right, so we're liking WePay, and I like that WePay is kind of like a typical gateway. It will make this demonstration we're really about to start go a little quicker. So I'm going to go back to that documentation and Paid Memberships Pro, right? And let's go through the steps. So make sure you're running the latest version of Paid Memberships Pro and create a custom plugin to house your gateway code. So we used to integrate all gateways like directly into the core, but we abstracted it so it could live in a separate plugin. So it really makes sense for any new gateway that comes out to live in a separate plugin. So I'm going to download the zip file and then log into my developer site. Actually, let me make sure I'm on the latest version of everything. I'm going to do it off screen for you guys, just to make sure we don't run into issues. Okay. And then I'm going to upload the PMPro example plugin. If I go in plugins, add new, upload, right? So hopefully you're familiar with installing plugins if you want to, start creating them as well. Where did that download? There we go. Is that gonna work? No, of course not. Sorry guys, my downloads folder's too full. PMPro example gateway, found it. Okay, let's install now. I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup of my dev environment here to make sure that kind of the minimal membership plugins are installed. All right, let's see. All right, not sure why that happened. Let's try again. Okay, this is what we want to see. Maybe my updates were still running. And it's all failed. Oh, it already worked. Let's see if it's in there. The example gateway. Example gateway for PMPro. Okay. Some wonkiness went on there, but basically I uploaded that zip and now I have this example gateway for Pay Memberships Pro on my website. I'm going to FTP into my development server. And then let me show you this. I'm using Notepad++ with their FTP. So now I'm connected to my development server. I can find that plugin and I'm going to rename it. So let's go find it, PMPro example gateway. Let's rename the folder to like PMPro WePay. Okay, we'll find that. PMPro WePay. And we'll rename the file inside here. All right. And maybe we'll rename this class as well, right? So PMPro gateway _ open these files and take a look at what they're doing. The base file basically just loads the class. So sometimes there might be other stuff that you have to do in here. Most notably, we'll probably download a library and include it in here and then want to find a way to load that library. But really, this is just the main plugin file. And we can WePay gateway for PMPro, right? Cool. I'm just changing these names so they make a little bit more sense for what we're doing. Awesome. So we're going to load the WePay class. And if we look at this, let's call it WePay. Just double check my typing here. Cool. So here I'm going to change this. So actually I might do a search and replace, right? So we want to say everywhere it says PMPro gateway example, let's change that to WePay. Awesome. But at this point I have kind of like a rebranded version of the example gateway. And I'm just going to walk through it really quickly to show you like all the different pieces of it. So here's the constructor. And actually, maybe we'll update this because new versions of WordPress are starting to throw notices when you use old style constructors or new versions of PHP. So if you're not familiar, what this is a class in PHP which extends our gateway class. So we have a common gateway class that's in the Pay Memberships Pro core, and we're creating a version of that called PMPro Gateway WePay. And so I'm actually just going to call this __ construct to avoid a notice. Sidetracked, but here's the constructor. All the constructor basically does is create a gateway variable and then sets it to the gateway that's passed in. And kind of stores that in the background, right? So so this just kind of remembers which gateway it is. So you can always check a gateway object, and it'll tell you what kind of gateway it is. Here's the workhorse for when it loads. So we add an action on init. So every time WordPress loads, it's going to execute this method within the WePay gateway class. And so here's what it's doing. We're filtering on PMPro gateways to basically add a new gateway to the system. So we'll see how that works down below in the PMPro gateways method. We're also using filters to add options to the payment settings page. So that's going here. We're adding settings to the edit user page. So a lot of gateways don't have to do this. Our Stripe gateway has a bunch of code around like managing what we call updates, which is a way to change the subscription on the fly from within like the edit user page. But not every gateway needs something like that. But if you do, this is how you hook into it. So crons, so some gateways well, these first two actually are activation and deactivation. So when your plugin gets activated, this is going to execute. And when it gets deactivated, this will. So that gives you, we'll see what is in the method below, but that gives you a way to set up like roles and capabilities if you want to, or kind of endpoints and APIs or anything that you need to when the plugins are activated. There's also an example of like running a cron. So a lot of our gateways don't run scheduled jobs. We really rely on like subscriptions at the gateway to send information back. Like PayPal uses what's called IPN. It looks like WePay has what's called like a webhook system. So we'll really want to rely on that for communicating back and forth with the gateway. But some gateways like Payflow don't have a system like that, and you have to check in every day. So we have to, the Payflow, we have an add-on that adds a subscription or a cron like this that every day checks if there's new orders for each subscription, that kind of thing. So let me see here. So get option to gateway. I think actually we might have changed this. I'm also going to load, because it looks like WePay is very similar to Stripe. I'm going to load up the Stripe gateway class and use that as a reference. So I really tried to put in this example like everything that you might want to need. But this would be a good exercise for me. Like the constructor was out of date, and some other things might be out of date. For instance, now, yeah, I feel like there's a method. We have like a get gateway method that we use sometimes instead of just getting an option for gateway. So yeah, we're going to call this WePay. So if the gateway is WePay, add all this stuff. So basically this fires on init. So we definitely like, we don't want to add these filters that kind of change the checkout page unless the gateway is set to WePay. So that's what this little bit of code is doing here. And then these are the pre-header code, like processes payments, checkout orders if you want to do anything. Yeah, we're definitely recording this and it will be available at a later time. Checkout order is if you want to like embed anything in the notes section of the order or kind of tweak orders to work with the gateway. And then we have a hook for the billing address field and a hook for the card type field and payment information field. So billing address would be your address information, payment info would be your credit card information. So if you want to override kind of the default, which you typically do, those are the hooks. So let's see, I'll just really quickly wave through these methods and then dig into them, right? So actually, this is adding the gateway. So remember, we're hooking into the PMPro gateways hook. And what you want to do is say, oh, if we don't have the WePay gateway already added, let's add a WePay gateway. This. So now instead of adding a gateway called examples, we'll add one called WePay. And I'm just going to activate the plugin. Oh yeah, let me reload my plugins page because now it's called WePay. And activate it. Fingers crossed. Okay, this gets activated. So now I'm going to go to the payment settings, and WePay should be an option in the dropdowns. So we're getting somewhere, right? We have our example, renamed it to WePay. And now when we look in the dropdown, we have WePay as an option. So the settings that it offers are going to be all of the default settings. But there's a way that we can add settings. Like we'll definitely want to add, oh, I think I got logged out here. We'll want to add all of these API keys, right? So it looks like we might want to keep track of your client ID, your client secret, access token, and the account ID. They use OAuth as well, so it's possible we might need to build that into our plugin. Cool, yeah. Let's go back into the code and I'll kind of point through these methods again. So this next method here is what's setting up the options. So if we wanted to remove any of these, we could remove these options. So these are settings that you typically want for a lot of different, for all the gateways, right? So SSL seal, the nuclear HTTPS means that's a way, like we run a script to try to make sure when you're on the SSL version of a page that the URLs don't break the SSL. The gateway environment, we default to like live and test. And typically a gateway has like a live and a development version. So we can filter on that. Currency, you pick like the country and currency code you want to use. And then we have like US centric tax date and tax rate built in to Pay Memberships Pro, and which credit cards are accepted. So these I think we're going to leave these for now because they seem like they would make sense with WePay. Payment options. Let me see here. Okay, so we're just gonna add in these options. So these functions work together. And I'm just gonna rename this. Maybe I'll do another search and replace. I think anywhere we say example, we should probably say WePay. And we get away with WePay underscore. Change it places. Yeah, this is just a quirk. Like this is kind of a clear way to. Sometimes you just want to get an array of the options that are specific for this gateway, and that this is the code that actually filters the options on the checkout on the payment settings page. Cool. So here we want to say WePay settings. So here we can. This is like custom code for setting up options. So these are like common options in Pay Memberships Pro. So Pay Memberships Pro knows how to use them. But if we want to put in our own fields, this is where we're going to put them in. And I'm going to lean a little bit on how Stripe does it, how we do it in the Stripe class, in order to do that. So I think I have to go back to the docs here for WePay. But I'm going to assume that we're going to have to keep track of these fields. If not, we can always remove them later. So I'm going to add settings fields for the client ID, the client secret, the access token, and the account ID. So I'm going to look at the Stripe gateway a little bit here, and copy one of their the HTML we use for one of their fields. I say like if the gateway is WePay, and then we're gonna. These classes are used by the JavaScript on the settings page to kind of figure out if a setting is supposed to be shown. So these are WePay specific settings. So you want to say gateway WePay. So when the gateway is chosen as WePay, it's going to show that option. And then we're going to call this the WePay client ID. Okay, cool. And this is a text field. We're gonna set it away. Oops. Delete this. Okay, so we want the client ID. We want some other fields. We want the client secret, which is small. Okay. Secret. Access token. Oops. I just. So this is the access token. For the back and forth. Hopefully this comes through. And then the last thing is called the account ID. We also have to add these. So this adds the HTML for these fields. We also want to add these fields into this array. WePay, in secret. Access token. Okay, so we added those options in here. We also added the custom HTML to show them on the screen. Let's see what our page looks like here. When we switch to WePay. All right, cool. We should be getting a heading for this. So we might have done something wrong there. Notice it's set in the client ID, client secret. Now what's actually kind of funny is it's grabbing this from somewhere. That looks like a Stripe ID. Oh, I probably copy and paste here. Yeah. So we want to say WePay. We got the WePay settings. Oh, okay, yeah. This so remember how these classes on the rows tell you when this gets shown. So even this row that's not an actual field, it has to say gateway WePay. This is the WePay settings heading. So we want to make sure the class on that TR is gateway WePay so it shows up correctly. Now when you go to WePay, it should show the heading and it's no longer pre-populating these. I'm going to try to save my values here. Pretty sure the just from my automatically write the code for saving these, or if not, so it saved those. We got some. Oh, okay, here. This is another. It's showing the example. So we have some PHP code in here about whether or not to display none a row. So we want to make sure that all of that code is WePay and not different. Yeah, so Kim is asking, when coding a gateway plugin, is there anything you have to consider if you're going to offer another option like add PayPal Express via the add PayPal Express add-on? There shouldn't be anything. I mean, unless there's like an overlap in like field names or JavaScript conflicts, the add PayPal Express add-on should work with any gateway that's coded this way. So that PayPal Express is one we specifically created an add-on that adds it as a second option. If you get into coding, other variations like, check out with Stripe or Authorize.net or PayPal Express, you have to custom code that. And so then you'd have to work it out there. But you shouldn't have to worry about what you're doing if it's going to break PayPal Express. Maybe I'll change my mind on that as we get through it. But off the top of my head, no. All right. So we have those settings saving. Let's, I'll kind of look through these. So we probably don't have to do anything to the order. Again, that's like if you want to add stuff to the notes to keep track of. I'm trying to remember which gateway we use that for, but oh, Stripe keeps track of like the update information in the order notes, I think. Like if it's like, hey, in a month's time, automatically switch the amount of the subscription or something like that. And then this, we're going to have to look at those API docs for WePay to get into some of this. So, all right. So I think I'm going to just go back and say we have our kind of settings section of the tutorial. So that's basically how we go through adding settings for these. The currency settings aren't showing up though. Let me figure that out. Let me see what Stripe does. Currency uses text. That might be a bug. Save. Yeah, it should be showing a way to choose your currency. I'm going to table that to look into that. I'm pretty sure that's a bug. All right, let's go back to WePay and figure out what it has to do. So let's look at the checkout. So you have to get approval for your app to use credit card tokenization. Collect the payer's credit card, make the credit card, create call from the client. Send it. Okay. I'm gonna just at this point take a look at what our like this is the documentation again. This is what I've been doing is like going through all the different hooks and methods that we're going through. I'm gonna load the front end of my dev account and try to see what the checkout page looks like. Cool. So we're getting a notice that's useful, a couple of them, and let's try to fix those. Does not have a PMPro checkout pre-header. Okay. We definitely want to program that. The pre-header is, again, like when the page submits, that's the code that gets executed. So we definitely want to add that if we don't have it. Okay. I gotta make sure I add that to my example code. Let's add that. Now we won't too much, but we just want to, process. Page form submissions. So, oops. Sorry, I got too many windows open. Okay, so we're having another problem here. PMPro include billing address fields. Right, okay. Yeah, let's code that up because that might be the next part of our tutorial here. Yeah. So I'm gonna also again look at the Stripe class for an example here. See what they do for the billing address fields. Okay, so yeah, and Stripe has Stripe has an option if you want to collect the billing address or not. I don't know if WePay has something similar. Let me look at their demo again. We'll probably go for like another 20, 30 minutes and kind of see how far we get, where we should pull in the library and kind of have something really close and ready to test. Right, here we go. This is our sample. So actually, like in their live example, they're not asking for the billing address. So we probably would want to add a similar optional billing address, just like Stripe does. So let's do that really quick. Yeah, I'm going to add this function up here. Yep. Include billing address fields, and then we'll just make it WePay specific. We want to add this as a field. And maybe we'll see how that's like a checkbox field in here, right? So. So those are all the secret parts and API information. And then here we go. We're going to WePay this up. Assuming that's similar. We may have to tweak that language and stuff, but basically we added a checkbox here now for WePay billing address. Let's see how that looks and works. Yes, show billing address. Just make sure that saves. Okay, cool. We'll go no for now because maybe I'll all right, so that was around whether or not you want to show the billing address. Now I'm going to try to find how Stripe actually sets up the billing address fields. Maybe it uses the oh yeah, let me here's the front end. Let me see how we got on the front end here. Logged in, log out. And I'm gonna say yes. And maybe it'll show us. All right, cool. So actually the way this works, let me look at that again and I'll explain. This is fun. This is like me relearning how we built this. Where's those billing address fields? Where did I put that? Here we go. Okay. So we have a method for the billing address fields. If we return true, it's going to show the billing address fields as like the default PMPro generates, which actually works for some gateways. Maybe the gateway will have different names for these things that will have to be overwritten or something like that. But for now, you know, we're kind of including the default billing address that's just saved in the background. And in the Stripe gateway, we make sure that the address gets updated correctly using JavaScript to kind of map the Paid Memberships Pro billing address fields to the Stripe names. If we return false here, we can just output HTML, right? So if I had to do my billing address fields in a certain way, I would output my fields here and then return false. And then this is where I would put the HTML for my fields. So we may end up doing that for WePay, I don't know, but assuming it works similar to Stripe, we can just map this via JavaScript later. Okay, so similar thing around the payment fields. So I'm again going to copy what Stripe is doing. Actually, that might be dangerous. I'm just going to copy this first part, and then we'll redraw the HTML. Payment options. Yeah, fields. Anyone has questions, feel free to shout out. Cool. And we'll definitely try to clean this up afterwards. All right. We're hooking into PMPro include payment information fields, and we're running our method. So this is where we're going to see how WePay wants us to format like the credit card and stuff like that. Just checking. Kim has a question here. Okay. Okay. So Kim's asking about international addresses. And yeah, if a gateway it's definitely something you might need to do. So there's a couple hooks called like the PMPro default country. PMPro countries is a global you can override if you want to insert a country that we don't have in our system for some reason. So if your gateway is country specific, you might want to add that into the gateway code. In general, you kind of want to add that code that sets the default country, you know, in your own custom plugin that's site specific, not gateway specific. And we might touch on it, like making sure that your addresses, fields, and things like that work for different countries is important. Paid Memberships Pro, we now default to kind of like a very generic, you know, we have a list of countries that's popular. I forget where we copied this from, but you can insert the countries in here by webhook if you need to. But otherwise, city, state, and postal code are kind of generic. There's ways that you can rename these, like location, region, depending on like what's typical in the locale that your website's targeting. But that's a good question. All right, I'm going to go back to the WePay documentation and see how they create this field here. All right, cool. So this is their HTML. The main thing that we want to, oh, look, they're asking for zip code, even though they don't ask for a billing address. So that's interesting to note. The main thing to note here are the names of their fields. I think like these are important, and they're going to be used by their JavaScript. I think if we just return true here, we'll get the default fields from PMPro. It'd be good enough, and we can just tweak their JavaScript. So I'm going to try that. See if we get some payment fields. Checkout page. No. Okay, so we already had that function set up. My bad. I'm going to get rid of the earlier one. Awesome. So like, again, like just like the address, if you return true, it sets up a default thing. And it's a good place to start. Like I'm going to see if we can just map our default payment fields to their API, because if we can, it'll save us some time. We want, yeah, so it doesn't have this new function, include card type field. Yeah, so we actually, in the core plugin now, don't show the card type as an option. We figure it out using a JavaScript that uses rules to figure out what your card type is. So I'm just going to set this up to not include the card type field. We can just say no. No, we might have to use that function if for some reason this gateway requires some funniness around card type. Like maybe, you know, if it is looking for a specific field, then we can change that. But we don't need the card type field. When you say false for that, there's a hidden field here. Maybe I'll try to show it. Show how this works. Hold on. This is the account number, and then here's the card type. It's a hidden field. So if you look here, it says value unknown card type. As I enter like what's a Visa looking card, see it updates to Visa, and saves it in the background. So yeah, that's basically how the card type works now. And if you run into issues like that might be something to look into, because if this JavaScript isn't working correctly for some reason, like maybe if you overrode the name of the card number field, the JavaScript we use to validate isn't going to know where to look. So that it's all kind of sensitive. But for now, we have like the default billing and the default checkout. And I think the secret sauce in WePay is in the JavaScript they do. So this is kind of where we're going to have to do some editing. Cool. So let's see what they're doing here. Looks like they're calling a JavaScript library. Again, this is very similar to Stripe. They set the endpoint. So here we're going to want to set this based on the gateway environment option in our settings. So if you look in the payment settings, you can say live or production or sandbox or testing. So it looks like we have to call the correct version of this, right? Endpoint stage. I think, yeah, okay. So stage is their version of development and production is their version of live. So we have to make sure this is set correctly based on that variable. Shortcuts. It's interesting. Oh, so this is just done to make, I wonder why they do that. But they're trying to, it looks like they're trying to minimize their JavaScript below. So D is document, d.id, get element by ID. So I guess like they kind of have like, instead of loading jQuery and using jQuery, that they're the most commonly used things in jQuery. They're making some shortcuts for it. It'll make their JavaScript a little harder to read. But all right, so then event, it's going to listen. What's it listening on? Add event. Oh, okay. So they're creating a function called add event. Okay. And then they add an event listener to a submit. So it's looking for a submit button called CC submit. And when it's clicked, it runs this. Okay. So, okay. I'm learning their JavaScript very briefly. It looks like this section here is like jQuery Lite, right? So that some of the most common things you might load jQuery for is to get elements by ID easily or to add event listeners on elements. So they kind of coded that up really succinctly here. And then here's where they're adding an event listener. And here's where it's going to generate the JavaScript to tokenize the credit card. So let me try to read this. Username value by ID name dot join. Response. I kind of don't. Oh, username is the name that they entered into that checkout page. So that's interesting term, why they're calling it a username. And then the client ID we'll have to get from our options. And then all of these values it's pulling from the form. So what we would want to do is, this is what WePay is expecting, and this is what the name of our field is. So we actually use different IDs on our field. So this, we'll have to change these. And then the address, it's just sending zip, but we'll probably want like some PHP in here to say, you know, if we're including address, include all the other fields we have set up as well. For now, I might just leave that out. Cool. So this is kind of the front end code to tokenize the credit card. What we can do, and I'll explain how we do it in Stripe, and then kind of something that's wrong about how we do it in Stripe that we're going to try to make better. So let's see here. Okay. In Stripe, we actually, in the pre-header of the checkout, we create a function that all the JavaScript is in. So that's a little silly. This function could be, you know, a method in the class or something like that. But I think it's just because historically we program this, like this used to be just directly in the pre-header code of Pay Memberships Pro. But basically what we're doing is we have a function that outputs some JavaScript. And so this Stripe JavaScript is very similar to what we just went through for WePay. And what we do is we just dump it into the page in a script tag. So this makes it kind of easy to control. It also makes sure that the JavaScript only loads on the checkout page because we're kind of dumping it out. It's hooked into a hook that fires on the checkout page. What's bad about this is when you load your JavaScript this way, it can break JavaScript minimizers. Or ideally, we would want this to load via a .js file so it could be cached. And then all these places where we have a PHP function figuring out what to put should use the WordPress localize script function in API to set the variables. So I'm talking slowly and I'm in my head saying, do I want to do this the correct way in this demo, or do we want to do it the way that we do for Stripe? I think let's go with doing it the correct way in the demo. So we'll kind of wing it. But I also wanted to talk through this way because this is how we've been doing it to date. So again, to kind of maybe say that a little more clearly is that the current Stripe API gateway class and some of our other gateways that require JavaScript, what they do is they dump a script tag into the code that has all of the JavaScript, and kind of inline we use PHP to do some things like, hey, do they want to include the full address? Okay, we have to send these other fields. Or, what's the publishable key? And what environment are we in? The way I'm going to walk through now is kind of, it's a better way to do it, where we put our JavaScript into a JavaScript file, and all these things that we use PHP to set variables, we set that up through the WP localized script. So I'm going to do that really quickly, or as quickly as possible. And then we should be done with kind of the front end portion for now for WePay. And then I can get a little bit into the back end of what the back end's doing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a JS directory to my plugin, and I'm going to create a file called like PMPro WePay.js. And then I'm going to open that. And I'm going to just dump in this WePay script for now. And maybe I'll put it. Oh, the other thing is I have this SDK, so maybe some of that code is in here. Yeah, all right, that I might just be searching this forever. We'll just keep going through. Their documentation is actually doing pretty good. I'm going to copy this JavaScript in here. Let's see. Let's do it. So we want to set the endpoint based on a variable, right? So thank you, Kim, for that link. This is the WP localized script function, which is a little confusing, but basically we have a JavaScript file, and we want to set up some variables to make them available to the file. So you create an array of those variables, and then you call localized script with your array. So then what you can do is you access the variables this way, right? Object name, some string. So let's actually, let's copy this here. This is not bad code to use. So what we're gonna have to do is, when you get to the checkout page, enqueue register a script, set up the variables, and then enqueue it. So we're definitely going to do that in our pre-header for our WePay gateway, right? So now I'm going to go back into the WePay class and look for that pre-header function we made. Here's the pre-header method. So like when we're on the pre-header is a term that we use in PayMerchants Pro. It's not really used outside of WordPress, but it basically means like before, like right after. Actually, I forget exactly when it fires, but it's before the WP hook fires and before the template redirect hook fires. So it's like when WordPress is fully loaded, but before the page is generated, you want to do some activity like before the code is output, because the number one reason you might want to do this is you want to set up, you might have to redirect somewhere. And if you redirect after the page is loaded, you'll get an error. So this is before any of the header variables are set for the page. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to register our script called like PMPro WePay. And then we're going to have this constant defined PMPro WePay directory. So this is the path, PMPro WePay directory /js/PMPro WePay.js. A few single quotes to be consistent with this code we're copying. So here's where we set all our variables, right? So we need to know the like environment should be option. What else we need? I forget. I feel like there's whether we're including billing address fields. So we called that address. We're gonna call it billing address. WePay billing address. Okay, so localize script. PMPro WePay is the handle of our JavaScript. We're gonna call this like WePay options or something. I don't know. You kind of want to make these unique enough that they don't conflict with other plugins. So this is kind of, this is the path of our plugin and our slug. So we're kind of using that in a lot of places. And then this is going to be the variable name in JavaScript. So we just want to, maybe we should call it PMPro WePay. I'm pretty sure a dash there wouldn't work well. So we'll just do it all together. And then we enqueue our script, right? Okay, so what this basically does is it makes a variable available in our script here that we should be able to use. So we'll use this, right? So we'll say PMPro WePay dot gateway, or environment rather. And I'm also going to try to log these just to make sure it's working. Right. The other thing we wanted to make available was for the billing address. So here yeah. So here's the thing that we did to the Stripe, right? So it's just making a call here, right? Response equals WePay credit card create, and then it has an array. But what we're going to do is we want to handle this array separately, right? So we'll call it, args or something. Is that what we do in Stripe? Yeah. So we say var args equals. Make sure my format is pretty good there. All right. Client ID is another one we need, right? So we'll have to PMPro WePay client ID. So we want to set that in our translation string. Okay. So the reason we want to do this is because we only sometimes want to include the address, right? So you want to say WePay PMPro WePay dot billing address. N args address equals like that. You can add the other address fields in there eventually, but I'm a note. Okay, using WP enqueue script, register and enqueue the script, register and enqueue. Yeah. I think, so Thomas is saying something about how we register the script and then enqueue it. You actually can pass a parameter to the path when you enqueue. I think we had to register it so we could also localize it. So I'm not sure if you can localize it all in one fly as well. So what we have to do here is these are the names that WePay is accepting. So it'd be so amazing if all this stuff just automatically works the first time we do it, but it won't. But one thing we have to do is these names here are the IDs of our checkout fields, and we're using the PMPro default, so they're not. These are not correct. So I'm going to actually open up our checkout page and inspect to figure out what we're doing. So actually one issue already is, so by default, we show a first name and a last name, not a full name, right? So I think we handle that in Stripe, right? So we kind of have a thing to figure out the full name. Right. So here we're setting the args. So I'm going to copy this. Actually, it's kind of nice. Their JavaScript doesn't use jQuery, which is cool, but we have jQuery available. So this might be a little confusing, like a combination of their shorthand, their shortcuts, and like jQuery. But that's what we're going to get. Right. So let's not set the username. Oh, okay. So up here, I'm going to like figure out the name. And oh, I see what we're doing here. Actually, there's code in Stripe that like you don't have to pass the name. Let me see here. So that's part of what was going on. It was like if the name wasn't, it didn't want to pass the name at all if there was a name, because I think we'll pass on that. I don't know. We might run into problems with this, so I'll kind of take a note. If WePay requires a name, then we want to make sure that like we get a name for people. So existing users may not have a first and last name on file in WordPress. So when they check out, we want to make sure that like we make something up to send over to WePay, or that we actually ask them for a name. So I think because they call it username, it kind of makes me feel like they do have a name. So there's potential bugs coming in here. So Thomas says there is a way to localize and enqueue all in one go. That's awesome. Yeah, if the name field. So the bugs may come up later for like people who check out and don't have a name, and then WePay is like, I don't know your name, but like Pay Memberships Pro, if you're logged in, won't always ask for the names. I think we actually might be good, because as long as they ask for the billing address, the name is going to be there. If they hide the billing address, it won't be asking for their name. And so if they're an existing user that doesn't have a name, there'll be problems. So I might just put a note here. To make sure we avoid issues users with no names. These are the kind of like weird bugs you got to think about. Okay, so we call it B first name, B last name. So we're saying like if those exist, then the name will kind of, I think what I'll do is I'll do like a default name. So it's like, it'll be like Honda. So if there's a first name and last name, then we combine them together to get the name. So now when we say username, we're going to say, dot join. I don't know what they're doing, why they're using the JavaScript dot join there. That scares me. I just want to check that out. All right. Volume ID name, I guess. That's used for like joining arrays into strings. So I think we'll be okay doing this. I wonder why. Yeah, I mean, all right. I think they want a string for their username. My indenting has gotten funny, so I'm going to try to fix that. Right. Not even. I have an extra one of these for some reason. Oh, we used to. This is. Let me see. This is part of this. All right, I think we have things lined up. All right, we set the name. This we call B email, credit card number. Let's look at our thing again. It's called the card number or account number. But double check that email. B email. The CVV we call CVV. Sometimes they call this CCV. Sometimes it's CVV. Expiration month. Okay, that's called expiration month. So another thing to look into is some gateways like pass the date all as one object, and you kind of have to combine the year and the month. Sometimes they have different formatting. So we'll figure out if like our format actually lines up for what they're expecting. Sometimes like they expect just 15, not 2015 or something like that. So we'll see. That might be a problem we run into, but let's just kind of assume it's going well. All right, so I think we're getting all the correct information we need in there. Oh, zip, we call it B zip code, the postcode. I might, so I mean, this is going on a while. I might keep going for a bit. I don't really have a hard stop until 3 to try to get through some of the back-end processing, because I want to make sure that that's shown. So I'm kind of getting caught up in like doing the actual coding here. We might be really close to getting our WePay working. All right. Okay, so now it's going to create a credit card and then try to console log the data. And then, okay, so this is the part where we kind of, what we do is like, if it verifies the credit card number that you enter is real. So at this point, what I want to do is I put the token into a hidden field so that when you submit, the token is available for that pre-header code to process. If we look at what we do in Stripe, so this is what we do in case of error. So I want to copy this. Like, so WePay, let me see. So when there's an error, it just dumps the stuff. So when there's an error here, we want to, we can dump the data. That's useful to have. And then let's figure it out. We want to re-enable the submit button. We want to process a message, add a message that basically has the error response. So data.error console like that. So we don't know like what form this is in. So I'm just going to expect that data.error is a message. So we'll double check that, right? When the console logs, that might have to be changed. And then this is what we do in success. So I'm just going to copy what we do for Stripe. It's very similar. Basically, grab the form response ID. It's called data. So let's console log the data so we know like what kind of stuff we're getting back. But basically, right, so here we embed a Stripe token. So we want to embed a WePay token. I'm just going to assume it's, we'll have to change this to get it correctly. With that, insert fields, and then we insert some fields, right? So we make sure the card type is set up. So Stripe calls the card type brand. We maybe can avoid this because we're setting that already. But we want to this overwrites the account number with X's, so the actual credit card doesn't get sent to the server. and it kind of updates the expiration month and year to be in that format. So this is JavaScript is actually going to break, but until we see like what WePay JavaScript sends, we won't be able to work on this. So I'm kind of going to cut it short here, and this won't work, right? But we'll go to the checkout page, try to clear up any obvious errors, return false. We pay 49. Did I do that wrong? Oh, this should be in the quotes. So that's the function to tell it. That's where we said don't show the card type field. So I'm just going to assume they use the standard Visa test cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3. All right, and when we submit, let me check the console here. Oh, so it failed to load our WePay JavaScript, so nothing really is going to happen. Let me see. Not found. PMPro WePay.js. Oh, okay. Yeah. When we enqueued the JavaScript, I used the path, not right. So this is the path on the server, not the like path to the plugin. So we want to use the plugin URL function that I forget how to use. So you can watch me look it up in real time. I probably wrote this doc here. So yeah, that's pretty good. So this will get a URL to the plugin. So it's the URL to this plugin / JavaScript / PMPro WePay. And then it's going to get the, because this isn't a subdirectory. You like, what's the directory of this file? This should be right. It'll look, you either use file or directory name file, but it's going to find the plugin. We don't need that. All right, I think that works. Go to our checkout page. Oh, okay. So it's using some JavaScript. Here I'm debugging our fields. So our fields are getting set, right? So billing address is one, environment is sandbox. Actually, we have to translate our sandbox / live into their terms. So we have to look at that. This reference WePay is not defined. Oh, did it not really? Oh, right. We have to load their JavaScript. So I'm going to enqueue that. Like if you look at their sample, what we didn't do is this part here where we load this JavaScript. So I'm going to make sure we do that. Let's enqueue that as well. So we'll say WP enqueue WePay enqueue script function. We can do it together. Make sure the parameters are in the right order. Handle the source dependencies, and then the version. So doesn't have any dependencies, and then the version 2. So I mean, it looks like when they have a new version, they change the file too. So we should be good. All right. And then yeah, enough. Where were we here? Something else going on. Oh no. Okay. So WePay is not defined. That should be fixed now. Cannot read property add event listener of null. So let's look at our JavaScript. So here's adding an event listener. Oh, CC submit. Okay, so we call our submit function something different. PMPro, but we can do this, I guess. Oh, it needs an ID. We have an ID on it also. think. Oh no, well, yeah. So maybe we want to just convert this to jQuery to make it easier. We don't really have an ID on our submit. We can get to it. We could say jQuery. Yeah, I mean, that's a silly thing. Like when you're possibly running multiple checkouts, and this should return the element. Hopefully this works. So we're using a little bit of jQuery inside of there. Custom code. Get the right submit button. Add event listener is not a function. We could just write this in jQuery, blah, 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 dot click function. Cool. I mean, yeah, we're getting in like archaic JavaScript here, but like they had their own way of kind of listening for events. But you had to be able to get elements by ID, but our submit button doesn't have an ID. So I'm sure I could have figured out a way to write this in normal JavaScript. But if I switch to jQuery, it should have the same effect that basically says when you hit that submit button, run some code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Check out. So it's just processing. So it's not really going to do anything. Actually, I'm curious what will happen. So our pre-header code will run, but there's nothing there. So it like the default testing gateway will just kind of let you in, right? It's not actually checking things. But let's go back. I wonder if I put in like an incorrect card number, will it yell at me? Well, like I said, I'm going to move on from the front end. Like there's definitely probably room to fix this, but that's kind of basically the front end. We've gone through adding options, loading those options, using the default billing address and payment fields. And then this is JavaScript specific that WePay that probably still has to be worked out. That's going to be hitting WePay and then sending some information back. What we have to do here is go into our gateway and look at our pre-header code. Check out pre-header. Okay. Oh, I'm in Stripe. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Here's our pre-header. So here we make sure we execute that script. But let's look at Stripe and see what they do. So Stripe, same way, doing it that old school way of not, just putting the JavaScript right into it. And then here after checkout. We want to find the actual process code. Process. Another trick that I didn't talk about early on, and I might have used it a few times, is I have a plugin called Kint Debugger installed. And Kint Debugger allows us to debug some stuff. So what I'm going to do is find the process function. Okay, here we go. Here's the default. Let's do this. So PMPro, when you submit on the checkout page, it actually does it has code to check to make sure like all the fields are there. So it's doing that. I think like if I take one of these required fields away and then fill it out, it should yell at me, right? So it's saying complete all required fields, and it's going to highlight this one. So again, you might have to hook into that, like if your gateway has different fields that are required or not required. But after that, it then runs a method called process on the gateway. And then there's some logic in here that we'll go through that's basically checking if it's only an initial payment or if it's a subscription type payment. And then this is like a standard setup for gateways that so far WePay has been pretty standard, so it should work with them as well. But I'm just going to debug. This is that Kint debugger code where I'm going to output the request and the order information. And let's see where we're there, and then I'll come back and talk through a little bit how that logic works. Okay, cool. So this does mean like we're working well in the sense that it's getting to the process section, right? So I just want to take a look at the request and see how things are set up, right? So if our JavaScript was working correctly, so there are bugs in that WePay JavaScript that we have to figure out. If it was, yeah, you know, actually I'm going to put a note. We need to translate this into, right, production and what did they call their sandbox? They called it staging. Okay, so I just take a note. We're sending it sandbox, and it has, that's not a real endpoint, so that's why the JavaScript isn't working. So if it was working, like our account number would be X'd out, and we'd have a token available here to use for checkout. We also have all these other fields from the form. Order. So this is these are the request variables passed directly into the form, and then PMPro sets up an order object and it loads all of this stuff ahead of time. So that's working. I'm going to get rid of our code here. Okay, so if the initial payment is 0, so this is like either free or has a, actually if it's free, it wouldn't have gotten to this point. Like PMPro would have just let them in and would have realized that the gateway is not involved. But if it's like a $0 to start and then $30 a month, so that's kind of what's happening here. What you typically want to do is you want to authorize the credit card. So in credit card processing, there's like authorization and capture. Authorization is like when you check into, or you book a hotel online and they say, okay, like they authorize your credit card and put like $500 on it to make sure that you have enough money on your credit card to pay for the hotel. It's an authorization. So technically like the hotel has permission to later charge that, but they haven't actually charged it. So later on, then they could actually capture it. Like after your stay, they actually charge your credit card, and based on how much TV and Snickers bars you took out of the fridge, they give you the actual. So that's what's happening here. Is that what we want to do is if the initial payment's 0, we want to authorize for $1, just to make sure the credit card's valid. So it's like a double check on the credit card. Technically, because Stripe does this on the front end too through JavaScript, and WePay was tokenizing it through JavaScript. So technically, it should have authorized already. But actually, there are some cases where it says, "Yep, that looks like a credit card number to me," but it's not valid for some other reason. So we still want to do this. So what we do then is actually we void that authorization right away. This could be changed if it messes with a gateway, but this is kind of standard procedure for each gateway. But so yeah, you say, hey, am I able to authorize $1? Yep. Okay, this is a real card. Let me void it because I'm not really going to charge them $1. And then now I'm looking up the trial information. And we're setting up a bunch of variables for like when the subscription will start, how long the trial is. So I don't know if WePay supports trials or how they do, but here's another area where like in the Stripe, like their trials are only in days. So you kind of have to convert like a 3-month trial into how many days it is 3 months from now. That kind of thing. Okay, so here's a case where the initial payment is 0 and the trial is 0. So there's no trial. It's just like $0 for the first payment and then X dollars per month after. So all this stuff, figuring out when the subscription will start. So in most gateways, when you set up a subscription, you tell it when to start. So with PMPro, we separate the first payment. So if you have a $10 a month subscription, we don't set it up as a subscription that's $10 a month starting today. We send a charge for the first subscription for them for the first payment today, and then set up a subscription that starts a month from now. So all of that logic is already in here, and hopefully we can just kind of use what's already there. We also throw an error, like if we're not able to authorize the credit card for some reason. Okay, so this is has the initial payment is non-zero, so there's a charge. So it's going to run the charge method. And so this is the logic, and below we'll have to update the authorize method, the charge method, and you'll see the subscribe method, cancel method to interact with the API. So we'll look at that. But all of this, like, oftentimes can just be left. So this says, hey, let's charge first and then set up recurring. Very similar logic to what's above. And then here it runs a subscription. Like if you get to this point, there actually is a subscription component. It's not just a one-time fee. So it tries to subscribe. Cool. So that's like the logic of figuring out which of the various API endpoints it's using, like for just charging, authorizing, and subscribing. So now this is the authorized method, right? So here's where we have to input our code from the WePay gateway to do authorizations, right? So let's take a look at their code here. It may be different. Like actually let me look at the Stripe. I don't think Stripe use authorize. Yeah, no. So that was nice going through like a standard gateway, standard being like how authorize.net was set up a while ago. This is the process for Stripe, which I'm assuming like WePay is so similar to Stripe so far. I'm assuming it'll be pretty similar here. So here you say if the initial payment is 0, it must be a trial or a subscription with a $0 initial charge. So we just cut to subscribe. Otherwise, there's initial payment. So we're going to charge the initial payment. And then if it's recurring, we're going to subscribe. So actually, this is a lot tighter. And the reason this is tighter is because a lot of that logic that I put in process is hidden in the Stripe gateway class inside of a get customer function. So let me look at the WePay docs a little bit. Create, yeah. Yeah, okay, so a gateway like authorize.net, at least I forget the what the specific names are. But the version of authorize.net that we integrate with doesn't store customer records that you can charge to later. Every time you process a credit card, it's like a new request. And so you have to authorize the credit card and make charges against that card at the time of checkout. So what Stripe and WePay are doing is it's tokenizing the credit card, but also kind of saving the credit card on their server to be used later. So in Stripe language, what we do is we create a customer in Stripe. And I'll hand wave through this code really quickly. This is kind of just figuring out all the variables that you might want to use to create a customer. And then here's the Stripe API call. It's like, hey, is our customer, do we already have this customer with the same ID? If so, let's just make sure the name and everything is correct and maybe update the credit card. If not, we're going to create a new customer. So it looks like WePay does something very similar. And I'm just going to look into the code here. And we only have 12 minutes, so I'll get really hand wavy to go through this. I don't think we'll really be able to test. So these are just those settings that we're keeping track of, the credit card ID. So this is the token that's created. So this is saved in our request header as WePay token right now. Use staging or use production. So here we'll have to write a a condition about if I'm on production or staging. And then here's a new WePay object, and then it hits the API to create a checkout. So against that credit card for that amount, and you add some descriptions. Let's see their API. So user. All right. So users are like customers, I think, and Stripe. And then an account. Is an account like a subscription? Oh, no. What's an account? Yeah. Account membership. So I'm looking through this and kind of learning how their API works. But we're probably like an hour or two away from doing one-time payments. And then it seems like we'd have to figure out how their subscriptions work. Subscription plans and credit cards. What's MFA? Oh, multi-factor authentication. Interesting. So one thing we want to do is, like in their example here. No, what were we? Create account. No, process payments. Custom checkout. In their example here that we were looking at, this is PHP code. Okay, so here's the SDK, and then WePay.php. So let's grab that. So what I like to do is I'm going to SSH into my server here. Okay. So I'm on my server in my plugins folder, and I'm going to make a directory called PHP WePay. And I'm going to clone their library. Okay. So now I have their library with the demo app and everything else, but actually all we really care about is that WePay.php. So I'm going to make an includes folder in our WePay plugin, and I'm going to make a lib folder, and then I'll copy WePay.php into there. Okay, cool. So I have this like as a Git repository. So if I ever see, hey, the WePay SDK for PHP has been updated, I can take git pull and it'll grab the newest version, and then I can copy that WePay PHP into my plugin to update. So now when I refresh here, I have the WePay SDK here. So we're going to want to load that. Let me look at how Stripe does it. Yeah, load Stripe library. So do that in the Stripe in the thing. Okay, cool. So let's copy how we did it for Stripe. And WePay underneath our constructor, we want a thing to load the library. It's called SDK. So just to keep the terminology a little consistent. Let me see what they actually call, what the library is called. I think it's called WePay. Okay, so it creates a WePay class. But here we say only if the class doesn't exist. So if someone has another plugin that's loading the WePay library, we don't want to load it again. And then we're going to look in PMPro, WePay, directory includes lib. Okay. And then when we construct this, we load the WePay SDK. That feels, let me see here. Yeah. Yes. I'll look into that. It's funny we did. Oh yeah, we kind of have to do it with Stripe because we don't really know if we're going to be integrating with the API. Oops, we need to do it like this. Because we're going to load, let me see here. Oh, no, okay. So, yeah, got it. So every init, we load the WePay init, or like the init method here, which sets stuff up. But we only actually load the SDK if we build a PMPro gateway WePay object. So it should only load this like on demand. What I was checking here was that you want to make sure that you don't load the library file every time WordPress loads just because that's a bit of overhead. And also, honestly, just a chance for like integration complications, like if some or conflicts if another plugin is also trying to load WePay. Like WooCommerce, like if WooCommerce is doing a checkout, you know, Pay Memberships Pro won't be loading WePay, so like it'll avoid conflicts a little bit. Okay, cool. So now we're loading. I included the library, and I'm loading it whenever we make a PMPro gateway WePay object. So in their example code that we were looking at, when they say WePay equals new WePay with access token, like now this code actually works if we load that library. So I'm gonna copy this. Let me see here. I'll copy this into the charge method because that's like a charge example. All right, so here's authorize, here's void, here's charge. So something like this. And really quick, I'll just WePay account ID, client ID, client secret, and access token. Coding in real time. Credit card ID is going to be, oh wait, actually what is credit card ID? I assume that was the token. I don't know. To do, we got to figure out this, right? You know, some value from the JavaScript is going to figure out this. And then, the access token is here. So actually this is going to be like WePay token, right? So make sure we're getting this. It might be in, yeah, so we got to make sure that the WePay token gets added to the order. Use staging, right? So like environment equals PMPro get option. Environment. You say like if environment equals 5. So like use live or use and then here we charge their credit card. So also all of this has to be updated, right? The amount should come from the order. The currency should come from an option that seemed like there was a bug actually. Description, you can look how our other gateways do it, but we set it to like the name of the membership level. Type, that's something specific to WePay. So that might actually, I wonder. Typically on a membership site, this is going to be a service. So, but we'll have to figure out what WePay, why they need this, and how to set it. And then payment method, credit card, the credit card ID. So that looks pretty good. And then here is where you would test the response, right? But for now, it's just going to assume it went correct. So definitely some work needs to be done here to make sure the charge is getting the right values in. Subscribe. So we want to look into how WePay does subscriptions, right? Create subscriptions and adds them and put that code in here. Update. So that's like if your credit card is stored at the gateway, you want to, we have a form built in the PMPro where you enter your credit card again, and then there's probably an API call to update the billing address. Cancel. So we want to use our API to cancel a subscription. Getting the subscription status, there's probably a call to do that. That's useful sometimes. Ditto getting the transaction status, like a payment transaction. Our pre-header is good. The other part, like that we kind of talked through in a lot of detail. So authorize may or may not be needed depending on how WePay works. It looks like they might not expose an authorized call. And instead we would use their like create users, add credit card functionality. This is the default process logic, which is set up for more like an authorized.net, but we might want to look to Stripe as an example for just really simplifying this to just doing a charge or subscribe. And then our subscribe function will have like a call to create the user first. So a lot of stuff to figure out yet, but hopefully that goes through. That's kind of all the major points. Like at this point to get WePay working, we have to make sure that JavaScript is correct. We might be really close. It might just be the environment that's off. We have to see what kind of data comes back from that JavaScript call so we can embed it in the form and pass it to the pre-header checkout process. We have to update our process to work, in the way WePay wants, and then we have to like test our API calls for charging and subscriptions. The syncing of cancellations and stuff. Cancelizations is not a word. Cancellations. So we have the stub and the frame of doing WePay right now. I'm going to maybe do a little bit more tweaking on this code tonight just to make sure it doesn't like break a site or do anything outrageous when you activate it. And then I'll put it up on a public GitHub repository as PMPro WePay. And we'll ask people in the community if they want to take a stab at filling out the parts that are left. If not, then whenever we find time, we can try to put one of our developers on it. But with the holidays, we're not going to be able to really rush to get this done. We're doing some other stuff. But yeah, that's it. This has been a long video. Thanks for hanging with me through the technical issues. We'll try to edit this down and trim it up and make it useful as a good resource to go along with our documentation, kind of showing you how to make a gateway. And who knows, in a week or so, we might be releasing PMPro WePay. Thanks, everyone. If there's any questions at all to the few people who are in the Slack channel, let me know. Kim is saying in here that definitely, like, if you go through this and make a gateway work, you should email us. We found other gateway integrations that we didn't know about. I think there's one for First Data, and we have to publicize it. But someone asked us like, hey, does your PMPro work with First Data? And I was about to write, no, it doesn't. And then I was like, wait a second. And I Googled it, and someone had written a First Data gateway class for Paid Memberships Pro. So if you do something like that, let us know, because we'll publicize it. We'll, put it on our site. Some of the integrations like that, like the Go URL, integrate with a third-party service that's commercial. So they definitely make money when you integrate with Go URL. And there's some other gateways, maybe that First Data one, I forget, that has like they through their own checkout system charge for access to the code. So that's completely fine with us. I mean, if you make a WePay gateway and charge for access to it, we're maybe going to just finish our own and use that one instead. But if you make another gateway and charge for people within the GPL for using your add-on, like, we'll just support you in that way. Okay, PayFast, South Africa. Someone in the chat is saying that there's a PayFast gateway. So yeah, I'll have to look into that one too. We've been kind of bad about following up on our blog about publicizing some of these third-party tools, but the more you bug us about it on Twitter and email and let us know about it for sure, then we can push those things out there. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for everyone who made it this far. We'll see you next time. And now I'm going to figure out how to stop. Oh, here it is.